All right, welcome to the ARK Entrepreneur podcast. I'm Daniel Callahan here with Derek Stone. I remembered that time.
Did remember
You're
that
welcome.
time.
You're welcome.
Makes me feel special.
Did you have a good week?
I did. It was a busy week, like always, but it was a great.
We say that every time.
We do. I mean, it's like
Busy week.
What else do you say when it's been?
Today's been unique. I feel like I haven't stopped and perpetually just about 2 minutes behind where I want to be.
Yeah.
That's not a cool feeling.
No, it's well, last night I called you about ChatGPT, and then I couldn't go to sleep for hours. I was just constantly talking.
That was Sunday night.
Okay, well, I haven't been asleep since Sunday night.
That's how fast the week is gone.
No, that was last night.
I know when
Tuesday. That was Tuesday night.
When you call me at 9 o'clock, I always go, "Oh no, what's wrong? Something terrible has happened." That just means Alicia's not home, and you're.
She's not there, so I got to tell somebody. I think she probably would be excited anyway because she's not into that.
Yeah, we've had a discovery week with ChatGPT.
Yeah,
I mean, an absolute discovery week. So
I had my own on Sunday.
Did you?
It's my first run at it, and I didn't really know how to approach it. So it's like, and it really is just say what you want it to do and then sit back and watch it work.
Look,
it's kind of crazy.
By the way, that's Brandon Sandifer, who we'll introduce in just a moment. But I want to talk, because I have 5.0 came out.
Yep, on August 7th.
And what Derek called me about is he said, you can link ChatGPT with your website and it created landing pages for you.
Wow.
It corrected his home page, his home links, all those different kinds of things. I tried to do it with mine, but I've got the cheapo WordPress. So I can't give them full. There's no install plugins. But anyway, I set in real estate, you can train virtual assistants in ChatGPT under projects. And so I have marketing specialists, I have investor specialists, I have buyer specialists, seller specialists, all that kind of stuff that I've just trained to give me the information I need. So, property reports, property presentations, seller, buyer presentations, investors, been working with investors all day today. And all they do is bring me properties they've seen. I bring properties that I've seen, throw it in through our virtual assistant. It starts spitting out cap rates, utilization rates, CapExes, all of that kind of stuff, 1, 3, 5 year cash returns.
Yeah.
Just like that.
Wow.
I can adjust anything I want to. Sometimes there's, the reality of the market, or I might know that neighborhood a little bit better than what's publicly available. It's unbelievable. I mean, I've taken investors from, I'd like to invest one day, to having a property this week and putting in an offer over the weekend.
Yeah, it's incredible.
It's blown my mind. I mean, absolutely blown.
One of the things we talked about was that the caveat of that is it does things so fast. In most 9-to-5 jobs, your boss will say, "Hey, give me this report by tomorrow at noon." Well, then it went to give me this report by the end of today, and then I need this report by lunch.
Yeah.
And now it's like, I'll just wait while you get that report.
Right.
Type this in real quick.
Yeah.
Well, then what are you going to do for the rest of the day? You're going to do more and more and more and more work but you're not really quote unquote working per se, because most of these AIs are doing it.
Well, they're offering classes now, to be proficient in it if you're not somebody that has a need for it every day.
Absolutely.
And that's where I'm going with this, is because I don't have a need for it every day, but I need to know it.
Yes.
It's that thing.
And a good place to find out about it is the Kingdom Entrepreneur Summit, October 25th at Marcus Point Baptist Church.
Oh, I like that.
Presented by the ARK Entrepreneur podcast.
Segue. Little segue.
Always look for a segue. That's your, we'll have more about that. Well, let's introduce our guest today, Brandon Sandifer.
Nice
Did
to
I
meet
say
you
that
guys.
correct?
Yes,
and you're with One
Well Life.
One Well Life.
Well Life.
See, I always second guess myself because I'm like, is it One Life Well or One Well Life? It makes sense both ways. But
well, the funny thing about it is that name, we sat at the dinner table, my wife and what we would consider our sister. She lives with us, goes around the world with us for a lot of things that we do. But we were sitting there trying to come up with a name when we started this whole process of wellness, so we were throwing out, I always knew that when we wanted to open a wellness fitness specialty, that we would be looking for something unique, and it needed to have the word life in it for sure. It needed to be wellness somehow. And then we're like, and it needs to be like, so, you are the one, you're the one, 111. So we started, back in a former life in Nashville. I was a songwriter for 10 years. And, what we would do is just, you'd have somebody with a guitar, somebody with a pad, and then somebody that, would throw out, and we'd just start throwing them down on paper. And we would write as much as you could write on one piece of paper. Then we'd go back and look at what we wrote and say, what do we have here?
Yeah.
And we had come up with one life, lifelong, one. And all of a sudden, all those words kind of came along, and it was like one, and then there was well, then there was life. And I went, wait, that's owl. And the owl symbolism
Gotcha.
just jumped off the page at us.
Yeah.
We're like, okay, now that's really cool because we can twist those words, one well life, you know, and
Yeah.
it still mean the same thing, but also have a really cool connotation. And now we got a logo, now we got
I
a
was about to say.
mascot, now we got all this stuff, and owls do all kinds of great things, you know. So
Yeah,
that's how we landed on one well life, and that's the quick.
I didn't know you're a musician. I've been on tons of those writing number charts for hours in studios. I worked out of Franklin and Chattanooga for a while, so that's pretty cool. That's a different world. There's nothing like a studio session. It's the most magical place in the entire world, and simultaneously the most frustrating place in the entire world. But I loved it. That's awesome. Do you still do music?
Yeah, I still do.
Do you write and you play, or
so? Out of college, I just decided that that's what I wanted to do, and put together a band. And then went to Nashville and started writing songs. I wrote a bunch of songs before I went and got to Nashville and started kind of just doing what you do. You grind it out. Yep. I was a bartender for a while and met some key people, and they liked 5 or 6 of my songs. And so I then signed a publishing deal and began writing songs for a company at the time called Cotton Eye Joe Publishing, and wrote for them for 3 years. You know, spent many a night and day in the studio writing and cutting and, you know, all that good stuff, and wound up signing a record deal in 1998. Had 2 quasi, if you want to call them hits. I had 2 hits, 2 video hits on GAC and CMT, and met my wife. And in the middle of all that chaos, because it is really kind of chaos, and never really charted. We were in the top 50, but never went to the top 40. So the songs were just not enough to make a living on. And the decision to go back and rewrite another album, I was kind of faced with at a time when I had been there 10 years. It had been a long time. And I just said, if we have another couple that are just sort of kind of good, but don't break the top 40, where am I at then? You know, in another 5 or 6 years, I'm a little bit further down the line. Plus, am I going to miss out on this person that I've met that's the number one thing? You know, we've been married now for 25 years.
Spouses seem to change your priorities, don't they?
They do. Especially when, you know, it was great fun and great experience. And I have stories upon stories I can tell about it, but it was one of those things where that slapped me in the face. And I was like, this opportunity with this person will never happen again, I don't think. Yeah. And so I was like, let's weigh up.
Cotton Eye Joe Publishing, I'm assuming it was rap and R&B. Is that where
Yeah, it was country. And the producers were Joe Scaife and Jim Cotton. And they produced their biggest on record success was Achy Breaky Heart. Oh, wow. But they produced, you know, a lot of country artists, as far as from Alabama to KT Osland to a lot of early 80s and 90s artists. And so I was on their roster with Montgomery Gentry, myself, Gretchen Wilson, a handful of others. They all went on to do big things, and I just didn't quite get all the way there.
It's a machine, man. It chews me. When I was involved, by the time in the 2000s, most studios were in basements of producers. You know, you just walk into their house, go downstairs, they've got gold and platinum records on the hallways going down, and all the Broadway shows they've produced, and, you know, all that kind of stuff. It changed a lot between when I first, as a kid, was in the 80s, early 90s. Right. It was a different machine. It was almost old school. You know, it's kind of like, you know, people used to show up to the office. Now they don't, you know, it's kind of that kind of thing. Amazing, though. It was some of those, and every songwriter who's worth their salt started out as a bartender. That's just how, that's just how it was.
It's cash in hand.
It's kind of like here in Pensacola, your realtor is probably also your waiter.
There's a lot of us out there, because I'm also, when I first got to town, I did the same thing. I got my real estate license just because I at the time was buying property, you know, and it was just, wanted to selfishly keep that little piece of it in my side of the transaction. So I went and got my real estate license.
I know, it blew my mind when I realized I can represent myself in my own purchases.
Right.
And get my own commission.
Look at there.
Now, I'm still that guy that I still use a realtor most of the time and just split the commission with them because they know what they're doing. And not that I don't, but I don't keep up with the particulars. And a lot of the detail that goes into a transaction escapes a lot of people. I know the bottom, you know, I was in the mortgage business on top of everything, 22 years. And so I'm pretty astute at reading the settlement statements. But at the same time, there's just things that
there's too much.
I don't want to have to think about.
That's what I tell people. They'll save you money on the front and the end. I said, I'd rather negotiate a commission and you have a good deal that you feel confident in than you try to, you know, do something online for, you know, a course you took over the weekend, which isn't bad, but you got to know what you're doing in real estate these days. I mean, you just really do. And if you've got, it's like we talk about this all the time. why do I want to try to be an expert in graphic design or website design when there's somebody already out there that does this for a living all the time? Just let them do, let them do it. I mean, I built a website. I wouldn't pay for it. What I mean,
Right.
Save a lot of money. We're going to have, you always have to have it redone. But, well, tell me, you've told us a little bit about your background. What brought you to where you are now? How's God used those experiences you talked about to bring you to where you are today?
So, we talked about this before we came on air, and I could start talking and you guys could just listen to me for hours because I got all kinds of stuff. But the reality is, like, I played football in college, and I played linebacker, and I went on after that to try to play even more. And those last 2 years when I was out of school trying to make it in the big league, I beat myself to death. I mean, I when it's all said and done, have had 9 surgeries.
Wow.
And so as I got a little bit older, I knew it was important to continue to work out. I enjoy the physical aspect of doing it. I like the exercise. But the reality was, as I've gotten up over that age of 50, that you get to that place where everything just hurts. I mean, and it's hard. Everybody says body in motion stays in motion. Well, good luck with that when your body won't go in motion. It's one of those things.
Your car still says wheels, even though it's going down the hill.
Exactly. And they're like, everybody's like, you just got to work through the pain. I'm like, sometimes the pain won't allow you to work or do anything.
Right.
So I kind of got to that place in life, and I had gone through, like I said, I was in the mortgage business for several years. And when my company came to me and said, after 10 years of working for a company out of Nashville, they said, would you retire? And I was not really ready to retire, but I understood what the message was. And I was like, okay, I will take this and go do something different. And a good buddy of mine said, hey man, I had been ambling around just kind of doing nothing for a year. I mean, I rode a motorcycle a lot, fished a bunch, had the occasional, beer from time to time, and looked up one day and I was like, he's like, what are you going to do? It's time. You got to do something. What do you want to do? Long story short, I just said, well, I'm into wellness. I've got to do some things for myself because I can no longer really go to the gym. I can't go to the Y. I'm having a hard time doing things that are meaningful, that actually work and help. And he said, well, what's your ideas? So I just said, I'd like to get into some kind of wellness fitness of some sort. And he said, I got a buddy that you need to meet. And this particular friend of mine became the partner at One Well Life. And he's, when we first started off, he was an OR trauma PA. So, brought a lot of medical, good medical background. And I felt it was important to have him on staff because when you're getting into something like what we're going to talk about, there's a lot of experimental type. There's data to back it up, but it's new. Sure. So as it's something that hits the market that's new, people are always apprehensive, and they're okay with looking at the old dumb jock stand up there and tell them you really need to do this because it's the next best thing. But they want some validation from somebody who's accredited, that's got a little bit of knowledge around it. And so that was my partner Mason, and he brought a whole different dynamic to it because there I was, the athlete, just trying to get better, trying to feel better. And I had come to that place where I couldn't go to the Y anymore. And I started just doing research. He comes on, he says, hey man, we were on vacation one weekend. My wife is big into fitness and she went and tried this thing called electromyostimulation. And it's where they put you in a suit and it's almost like a wetsuit and it's got electrodes on all the major muscle groups. And the next thing, they kind of crank you up and they put you through a workout while you're getting stimulation, very similar to that of a TENS machine. TENS machine on steroids, though.
Okay.
I mean, really, really a lot more intense. But I could identify with what they were talking about when he explained it. So I thought, well, that's really neat, but I need to know more. So I started doing research in the Mayo Clinic. The FDA approved this in the United States in 2020. So it's just arrived here, but it's been going on in Europe for 30 years.
Okay. Sounds about right.
So yeah. So these guys in Europe, they did all of their research and they've done some really great studies. And so I started looking it up and I'm like, I want to try this. Where do I go? Well, I started looking at the machines and they were being distributed at the time out of Chicago. And I said, well, the only way to figure this out is to go try it. So he and I got on a plane with Chicago. I got to this facility and they had it sort of set up a little bit like the studio that I have here in town. And they just, he being a medical guy and me being an ex-athlete, we had 100 questions on a piece of paper this long when we got out of the plane because we were like, you got to tell us about all that. I'll never forget the guy. When we walked in, he said, hold your questions, put the suit on. We're going to go through 15 minutes And he goes, and after that, if you have questions, what we'll talk about or what
you can still talk.
If you can still, yeah, if you're alive, no. But yeah, so I said, well, let's do this. And so we did. And all your questions were answered once you put the suit on. It was one of those things where I was like, wow, where do I sign up? How do I do this? Where do I get the machines and all that kind of thing? So it's literally, you're using electricity to stimulate your muscles at a depth that you personally could not do. It bypasses your central nervous system, and it's all through the peripheral nervous system. If you were to sit down and actually do the work that is being done for you through the machine, your body would say, I'm fatigued, I'm tired, we have to stop.
Right.
The difference is this doesn't. So the depth at which your muscles are being penetrated during your workout allows you then to really train less and get more out of it. So what we actually turn into is a time crunch. We're saving time because the FDA really recommends and only really wants you to do this with people twice a week, 20 minutes at a pop. Because 20 minutes, depending upon the athlete and how well groomed you are in terms of fitness and shape and all that sort of stuff, 20 minutes can be the equivalent of 4 hours in a gym. So it's that intense. And it sounds like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that. How would I stand it? I've got 90.
That normally takes me 2 weeks to accumulate that.
And it's one of those things where a lot of people, they don't have time to go to the gym anymore. I think the biggest thing for the number one reason people come to us is time.
Yeah.
It's mom and dad. They know they need to be working out. You need to be doing something, but do you have time, number one, or do you want to get up at 4?
Right.
That's
and then when you get there, I mean, you've got so much else going on that like, what am I doing today?
Yeah.
It's that whole thing. And so this actually just came along at a time. And I think we're still going through the phase with people of, is this for real?
Yeah.
Well, we've been in business now for 2.5 years. And those that have been in our studio that have stayed with us have said the same thing. It's like, I didn't really believe it at first, but now after having done it and continued on the process, I will say this, and I have to say this, because I don't care what you do. There is no such thing as a miracle. There is not some pill that you're going to take to make you look and feel the way you have to put the commitment, the time, and the effort into something. But wouldn't you rather put it into something that took you a third or a tenth less time?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you said, my wife and I work out in the mornings, but we've got young kids. So the only time one of us has to leave at 4:30 and the other at 5:30
Right.
when the other gets back, or we don't go. It's not like we can go late at night. It's by the time the kids are down, we're done.
You're done. Yeah.
We're done. But we were talking about that this morning. We don't have enough. When are we going to, you can get there and have maybe 35 minutes, try to get through 3 or 4
essential things.
And you're like, I don't have time to think about it, or, am I doing even the right weight, or am I doing, you just get in there and throw some weights on and hope for the best.
And you wind up doing the same thing over and over.
Yeah.
Really and truly.
Absolutely.
You're doing something's better than nothing.
Yeah. You can get it done within the amount of time to get there. So.
But it's been years since I've been to a gym.
Really?
Well, it has. Yeah, last time I worked out, I was at the sheriff's office, but at the gym anyhow. We used to do a lot of body weight workouts, the high intensity stuff. But what you find a lot is people go into a gym and they mingle around and they talk, or they'll get on the treadmill. And and then they really never get any effect out of it.
Right.
It's like you could have done that just by walking around your house doing sports.
There's a group of guys at my gym that follow each other, and they all work out at some point. They're pretty big guys.
Right.
But I've only ever seen one of them work out at a time, because one will be on the machine and the other 3 are sitting there talking.
Yeah.
I said, you guys have jobs or something, right? Or you got to get some. It's a culture. It's a culture. And my wife is very big into fitness. She's finishing her licensure because that's just what she's passionate about.
Yeah.
It's part of her recovery as well that keeps her focused and keeps her body, mind, spirit going. And I've never had that passion. It's a necessary evil for me. You know what I mean? Because I know some guy, she said, well, just get in there after a few weeks. You'll start feeling it. And then I go, no, it's been 3 months. I don't like it. I don't, but I do it because I know the benefits. And I lied. I like it better than I did. So I know over a period of time, maybe once I start seeing, doing something where you actually see a specific result you were looking for.
Right.
I know one thing, my back pain has gone away for the first time in my life just by working out. And that blew my mind. So that got me more excited. So I started supplementing everything I possibly could to maximize that. But, I've got young kids in my 40s. So I've got to have, primo, all my joints crack for some odd reason. My right ankle is hurt for 2 years and I don't know why. Just one of those kind of, you hit that kind of age, but you realize if I don't start now, I can't, it's much harder to start when you're 65 and go, I've lost mobility. I can't get my arms up.
Yeah.
Now I should probably start working out.
Yeah.
But things like this, it's kind of like we were talking about ChatGPT. It's not a shortcut. It's a higher efficiency and effect.
At your home with the best in the business, Duncan Custom Gutter and Coppercraft. From seamless gutters to stunning custom copper work, we deliver top quality craftsmanship that lasts. Say goodbye to leaks, fogs, and water damage with expert installation and repairs from the local pros you can trust. Call Duncan Custom Gutter and Coppercraft at 850-455-72, 850-455-7246, or find us online at DuncanCustomGutter.com. Duncan Custom Gutter, where we say doing it right is cheaper than doing it over.
If we have the ability to do that and afford us the rest of the time for things that have a high utility.
Everything we're doing now, guys, is for time. Think about it. I mean, ChatGPT, we were just talking about ChatGPT. It's a time saver, and why is that? I guess it's because we've all got other things we would rather be doing, or other things that take our time.
Yeah.
But reality is a lot of the conveniences that you're coming across nowadays are all about time.
Yeah.
And that's basically what this fitness type is. It's just it's a time crunch.
So how long is you had the business?
So we opened the business officially 2.5 years ago, and that's really when we got back from Chicago, had all the equipment, all the stuff. I've had some investment properties here in town, and what we did was kind of go woodshed a little bit and learn about what we were doing. You have to get certified on the machines so you don't hurt anybody. And naturally, everybody says it's electricity. Is it going to kill me? Does it feel? Can I die? No. I mean, what you really have to know more than anything is, there's a list of conditions that we're just not going to, we're going to allow somebody to come in there and work out with that. If you've got diabetes, if there's all kinds of just, stuff that, you just like any disclosure when you sit down and sign it at a gym, we've got the same thing. But we call it a studio because we're concise, smaller, one-on-one type training. And to your point about your wife having her certification, all of our coaches, they're certified on the machines, but they're also certified personal trainers.
Yeah.
Which is that for me as an owner, it's not necessary. It doesn't have to be that way, but I felt like, especially with it being brand new and something that people don't know about and may not really trust, I need to go to the nth degree to make sure that I'm staffed with people that know fitness, number one, and know that in the event that you get to a place with a client, that
you walk in with confidence.
You've got a little more confidence than the kid, from high school that's just putting the vest on and turning it on.
So you're 2.5 years in, and it's a kind of a niche market, right? So it's not your normal gym. How do you market that, and how do you keep people interested to say, okay, I want to try this quote unquote new style that not only will save me time, but give me the same benefit? How do you attract people?
I'll be honest with you. It's been difficult. And I'll say that just from the standpoint that if this were a major market like Nashville, Houston, Chicago, all these places, this has been popularized for the last 4 or 5 years. It's been here for a while. It's just not been on the Gulf Coast. And we've been the first to the Gulf Coast with this. And I have had I'll be honest, it's been a challenge because what you really are doing is you're educating while you're selling. And those two things, a lot of times people separate them because you don't want to be sold when you're trying to learn about what it is that you're trying to make the decision to do, right? So I have done a little bit of everything. When it gets right down to it, what we try to do is just bring people in and let them try it. We have a first time, come try it for free. We put you through about 10, 12 minutes just to get the feel so you understand your hair won't stand on ends. You're not going to come to your knees. It's nothing like that. But people need the opportunity to come in, touch, feel, see, do, watch. And so we encourage that. And I've done, from morning, the one thing I found that was most effective about letting people know what we were in business and what we're doing is in the morning before the weather on WEAR, we would come on and had a full-blown commercial there and showing people in the suits. We also have a website. We've also got a big presence on social media where we encourage people to get on the website and watch people that are going through workouts. We film our workouts all the time. We have people just at different levels. I mean, there's all kinds of different conditioning levels. And we've got a sergeant from the police department, that's religiously in there every morning at 6:00. And he's a beast, but he's not the 74-year-old woman who's really just trying to keep her hips moving and keep herself going. And so the gamut is just wide. I mean, we run the gamut from 28 to 78 is my oldest is right now. And she's And she is our
It's not
elite.
that old anymore.
No, when we celebrate these people when they come in and they do a good job, we call them elites, our elite of the month. And so she's been with us now for a year, and she's.
Oh, I thought you were just saying athlete without the T. I got you.
It's supposed to be athlete, but it's we kind of twist it a little bit. That's another little
Your
play
logo,
on words with the yeah.
I like it. Yeah.
So I want to know, because we ask everybody too, because our goal here is to help equip Christian entrepreneurs to impact the kingdom in a significant way. And I know you're involved in Ricky Stewart. We had Heather Richards on last week. You know Heather?
I don't know Heather, but
Heather.
I do know Ricky.
Yeah, well, everybody knows Ricky. Yeah. Ricky goes to our church on Wednesdays.
Gotcha.
Goes to our Entrepreneur Club, and everybody knows Ricky. And when we say, well, Ricky's not a member of our church, I go, what? We thought we see her everywhere. I was like, it's just Wednesdays. She, you experience Ricky. She has a massive impact. She's been incredible for us. But we ask everybody kind of, their story in their business, how they seek to use not just biblical principles, but impact the kingdom through the way they work and what they do. Maybe you could speak just a little bit on the spiritual side, where God has brought you into this point and is calling you. You've always been in business.
Yeah.
In some aspect. How's God used that? How do you see yourself using business?
This especially in terms of all the things that I've done. Of all the things, because I've been a musician, in the mortgage business, played football, acted a little bit. I mean, done all kinds of stuff. This actually had a totally different feel because of the calling. And I feel like that for me personally, what I recognized very early on is the impact I could make helping other people who at the time, whatever they may be going through, because we deal on so many levels with so many people. Wellness is a giant umbrella, and the fitness piece of it is only one piece, but the mental aspect of it is also extremely important. And I have, just like all of us, I'm not speaking for anybody in the room, but I'm going to say most of us have had struggle at some point in your life where you've had to go to God and say, I need your help. I need some guidance. I'm not big enough to handle this on my own. I need you to push me in a direction. And I feel like this is what has happened as a result of my quest for his help for me, but also it's always been about I'm going to help you, but you got to use what I give you to help others as well. Right. And I think that's really where, for me, this is not the first time in my life, but it is one of the most monumental where I've been able to say, I'm in control, I'm in charge of this, I own this, and I'm going to say, I have the ability to say how much help I can, what I can do to help people. Like I can control that. I'm not at the mercy of somebody else who makes a decision based on affordability. We do a lot of things, and we don't ask for praise for it. I don't look for anybody to pat me on the back. I'm never going to use that as an opportunity to say we do that. But we have several members that don't pay a thing because for my own personal reasons, I believe that everybody has the opportunity to give back to people that really and truly are using this service and what I'm doing in a way that is so much more meaningful to them and where they are in their life than where I am now. So when I look up and I see we've got folks that are struggling with cancer, we've got folks and they're not supposed to be doing this, but they go to they go through the means of going to their doctor. And I say, look, man, you let your doctor tell you what to do, and if he tells you, I'll give it to you. I want you to continue to live as long and as far and go as, and if it's whatever that may be, I'll let you have it. And so we do a lot of that, and it's under the table. We don't talk about it. We're not waving the flag. It's not something that I want credit for, but I feel like those are the types of things that this business specifically, of all the things that I've done, this business has been the most rewarding from that aspect. Sure. Because I'm not answering anybody else. I'm making that decision to help you because I want to, and that feels good. I mean, it really feels good.
That's the biggest kingdom focus principle of all, which is just pour into people, love people.
Love, man. And the thing, like we always, my wife and I live and have lived for 25 years in marriage and 27 years total together. And we've always had a little saying in our house, and it's always been just give. Yeah. Just give. Don't ask for anything. Don't expect anything. Don't walk away thinking just give, and it'll all come back. And then we've lived that way, and it's been our life. We've been blessed. Yeah. We've been very blessed.
Well, I love hearing these kind of stories because there's a giant litmus test for successful businesses. That Jim Collins talks about. On that good to great, and the first one is what can I be the best in the world at? 2, what's my economic driver? And 3, what am I passionate about? So many people skip to the 3 and skip out on 1 and 2. You know, they have great hearts, great intentions, but a terrible business model. You know, no economic driver. No, I can be the best. I love seeing, especially Christians, being involved in these kind of cutting edge industries that aren't everywhere.
Right.
It's not a bandwagon that's been jumped on. It's, you found a unique niche that aligned with your passion and your purpose and had an economic driver as well for success. We need more successful Christian entrepreneurs, not just more Christian entrepreneurs as well. And not bypassing that passion drives, you know, it's a passion for the work. It's a passion for getting there every single day and for the purpose in which it's accomplished. And you're seeing those kind of results because you were wise enough to have, can I be the best at this in my market? And is this going to be economically viable to be able to serve this throughout the entire time?
And I'll question that economically viable piece every now and then.
Oh, you should.
I mean, I have put us behind the 8 ball on a couple things because I've just specifically said we're going to do the right thing.
Sure.
You know, it's not all in the name of making the dollar. And I've probably slowed us a little bit, but at the same time, I also feel like that's why I'm surviving as well, because it's just, you know, the decision to not put that up in front of everything.
Yeah.
You know?
That's what we talk about specifically on this podcast a lot. I mean, we talk about it all the time, which is the value proposition over the money proposition.
Yeah.
You can go, so many business people go into business specifically to make money.
To make money.
Yeah, that's what we're in it for. Obviously, you know, we also have a passion for certain things, but if you go in seeking the money only or first, then it all falls apart.
Yeah.
You know, you're building your foundation on the sand and it's going to shift and it's going to be gone. But when you get it rooted in, it may take you a little bit longer,
right?
But then you're going to stand on a firm foundation.
Sure.
And that business is going to skyrocket and when everybody else is collapsing. So your niche that you got now, yeah, it's taking a little bit longer to build. Primarily, I feel like it's probably taking a little bit longer because all the, not just gyms, but every little quirky thing that comes along is making it more difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Take these pills, take this shot, wear this type of suit. You've seen those sweatsuits. Yeah, those things work. You run in a garbage bag, basically. You know, back in the day, it was the belt that shook people back even before I think we were all alive. But, you know, those things, you got to get over the hurdles because people go, oh, those things are gimmicky. And, you know, and then something that seems new, you're like, well, maybe that is. Well, no, I got to teach you. So that takes a little while.
Right.
And you mentioned that earlier. It takes a little while to teach them. And then, man, once it goes, and then you get a Ricky in there, right, who is, you know, campaigning for you.
Yes, she is.
Man.
Yeah.
She's been wonderful. I mean, she really has. I think just from a genuine, you know, love for what we were doing and her accomplishments were just, you know, this was spurred on by her. There was nothing on our part to say, hey, can you talk about us a little bit? She really just jumped in there and said, hey, I want to help you guys because this is a really good thing. So we've really enjoyed having her as one of our members. She's great.
Well, I mean, it sounds exciting. I always look for, I try not to say I want a shortcut, but I always say, I don't understand why I can't drop this belly while eating a frozen Lunchable from my kid's lunchbox, you know? I just don't get it. Man, hand me another one of those. But, you know, those kind of disciplines in people's lives, adding something like this that's going to be value, it's part of overall health and wellness. It's not an end-all, be-all.
Right.
Correct? You know, you still have to eat right.
You got to,
you still have to live the life in the right way.
Yep.
And I think but this is an integral part. And adding value, and he said the value is this is going to be something net beneficial for you. So you can not only have the time to do the things that God's called you to do, but you can do them more heartily unto the Lord. You know, the biggest, as you get older, it's not your heart and it's not your mind that is unwilling. It's your body that keeps you from doing that. And I see that and I hear that from a lot of times. People say, man, you know, just can't physically do what I used to do anymore. I wish I had, or I wish I had it. And we've got these opportunities now, like businesses like yours, that enable a whole generation of people to totally delete that vocabulary from their future of I wish I had. Take control of we talk about mind, body, and spirit as an entrepreneur. You can't just be great at one. You've got to have richness and depth in all three of those to be as successful into the calling that God's given you. Yeah. And so often it's easy for us to concentrate sometime on the spiritual, even though we're not that good at it. It's a little bit easier because it's so abstract. And the mental, I can read, I can do those kind of things. The physical is
secondary.
I was gonna. But I didn't want to, you know, and reality. And I think, and we find in companies like this, it's not just about value of an end product. When you have that kind of concept that we hear from you, we hear from Heather, and we heard from Ricky, it's a value in everything that you do, because it's not just about a valuable product. It's about having the right value of people that work alongside of you, even taking that extra step of saying, I want them licensed. Not necessary, but you want the right people along with you all the way along the way. You have the right partner. We talk about having the right partner all the time.
Yeah.
It's one of the most critical. And having that value throughout, that just naturally exudes that your product is going to be on another level. Even if somebody else started the same business right next door to you, it's going to be different 100% through it. So it's awesome to see that how God kind of just uses these simple things. I wouldn't even thought of it, but we need people, we need Christian entrepreneurs to be on the cutting edge, to take that kind of leap. We call them one-dayers here.
If you're thinking about buying your first home, relocating to the area, or investing in real estate, I'm Daniel Callahan, realtor with ERA Old South Properties, and I'm here to make the process simple and stress-free. So whether you're military, moving across town, or looking to grow your portfolio, I've got your back. So let's find the right place right now. Call me at 850-903-4650 and visit my website at danielcallahanrealestate.com.
4 years ago, I met this guy and we talked about it, and hey, maybe we should meet in Chicago one day. It was, let's go do it. Well, how do you help people, or maybe you can speak to people? What's the kind of mindset that brings you to a point where you say, let's go do it. Let's take that step. People are struggling to take that step over the line. Some of it can be personality, but I think you had to have put, as they say, the bold often find the fortune more than the well-prepared sometimes, or the well thought out. You take a step. What goes through your mind when you're presented with any kind of opportunity like this?
I think
how do you handle it?
The thing for me on this particular opportunity, because as we've talked, I've taken a lot of leaps of faith. I've experimented and tried a lot of stuff. The difference for this for me was I looked at this like, I think the reason I was so aggressive, like, let's go get on the plane. I feel like, and I really believe this, and I don't know whether, I hope, and I continue to pray that we just keep doing our thing. We'll be there in the end, but I'm first. I'm early to the game. And a lot of times, the old saying, it's hard to, you don't want to be the first one turning on the lights or turning them off at the party. The ones that come right in the middle, stay a little while and go. Mm-hmm. They usually are the ones that fare well. So hopefully that's not me. But I am the early guy with the lights on. So, but
in this area.
Yeah, in this area.
Not
correct,
as an industry.
Correct. In this area. And I feel like that, when I came across this, I was like, I've never had the opportunity to be the first one to the party with the new thing. I've always been the one that was kind of joining along as we go, or late to get there and just did, never mind, it's already been done, Yeah. And I think that was really what motivated me the most, was when I started researching the Gulf Coast, it wasn't going on down here. And I'm like, we could be the first to bring something like this in. Now, I think where maybe a little bit of the disconnect from the dreamer part came in, because all you see is at that point where this is it. We've got it. We've got opportunity. I think what you really, where you kind of overlook is some areas that you overlook is, this is Pensacola. It is not Tampa. It is not Chicago. It is not Nashville. Our population here and the density of the population for the people that will be able to do this and want to do this is much, much lower than it is in those places, just from a population standpoint.
Sure.
So that consideration was not, that wasn't a whole lot, there wasn't a whole lot of thought given to that ultimately in the beginning. But in the end, I think it was better that it was that way, because I feel like had I been in Nashville, had we been in one of those places, mistakes cost a whole lot more there than they do in Pensacola, Florida.
Oh yeah.
And I felt like if we were going to, if I could just get around the bend and be present for a while, then ultimately when it finally started taking off, Pensacola would afford me the time and the opportunity, that didn't cost me an arm and a leg and, put me out of business too soon, because I just was too soon.
Yeah.
So I don't think I did. It's funny though too, you asked me that question. I think there's a little bit of it that goes into the chemistry of the makeup of the person, because you don't just put everything in the back of your truck and go to Nashville out of college because because you're squeamish. But I think a lot of that just comes into play where you go all the way back to the beginning. You talk about being a kid, you talk about how you grew up, who your parents were, the life that you've lived. All those things shape you to make the decisions when you're faced with them like these that we're talking about. And I've always really been a pretty aggressive mover when it comes to things like that, just because I've always felt like that, to be honest with you, no one's moving me but me,
Right.
and that's really kind of how I've grown up. I've lived that way. I was raised that way. And that's not to take anything away from people that aren't. I always say too, a lot of times it's better to be lucky than good. And, I've seen many people that have aligned themselves with other folks that were the catalyst for where they wound up in their lives. No fault of anybody's, it's just one of those things, I think. But that's kind of how I arrived at this decision, was just more than anything. I felt like this was an opportunity that was going to be, somebody was going to take it first, and why not be me?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I think people say luck, and that's common in business. That people always say, oh, it's very lucky, or it's just in the right place at the right time. But everybody are in those right places at the right time. So if you actually take advantage, they're not ready for that opportunity or to walk through that door. I think that's the difference. People are far more lucky than they think. They just didn't take advantage of it. I mean, we can all look at moments in our life where we go, man, I had that sitting right there. I wish I could have. I sold Bitcoin in 2013. You know what I mean? Oh, that'll haunt me the rest of my life. I didn't give away 10,000 for a pizza, but I did give away a few hundred for about $50. Or what was that? 2014, 2015, something like that.
Yeah, man.
Or 16, might have been 16 anyway. But I think the important part is, and you talked about your parents, you talked about the way you grew up. Even the most successful people that you just think, well, they just naturally exude this confidence and gold touch and boldness. They always will say similar things. That's just how I grew up. Or,
but I didn't tell you how I grew up. I just told you that was how I grew up, but I didn't tell you how I grew up.
Right.
I mean, there's nuances to that as well.
Yeah.
Because those people that you're talking about, some of them you would assume, just based on what you're saying, that mom and dad were strong.
Yeah.
Mom and dad were there. Mom and dad got you through it. And that's not always really what people mean when they say the way I grew up. That's kind of where I'm going.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I think my path was such that I had to be independent very, very early on.
Yeah.
Very early on. Whether I was confident or not, I had to be independent.
Right.
And so that, in comparison to those folks that you're referring to, sometimes we don't really realize when somebody says it's the way I grew up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That way I grew up sometimes is not ideal,
Yeah.
But it works. Later on, it really works.
Mm-hmm. I saw a study not long ago that analyzed successful entrepreneurs, people that started from scratch and built massive companies. They started realizing that a vast majority of them came from what we consider a broken home. Most of them, what we considered a consistent home with even present parents and things like that. Far fewer of them go into success like that. It's a little bit different. It doesn't have to be that. It's not necessarily that way, but it's like you said earlier, you have to learn to be that self-starter and to be, what's going to happen today is because of the actions that I take. That's a different mindset that often has to happen a lot earlier in a lot of people's lives.
From my own standpoint, I was one of those. My childhood wasn't all that great. And my wife and I were just talking about this recently, was I'm not afraid to fail because I know how to start from zero.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And if you happen to be in a family where you never really struggled and don't know how to, you've never seen the work.
Yeah. Adversity.
That's great. I don't want you to lose that. But when you do face it at some point, you're not going to know exactly how to start over. If I was $100 billionaire and I lost it all, I would know how to get it back because I've learned it and I've taken the risks to get there. Now we can get back. Will I ever be $100 billionaire? I don't know, but I don't know if I want that kind of drama, but still.
I don't know if they call them that.
I get it. And the one thing I think when I look back, like when I think about all the things, I mean, the blessing that God has given me through all of this, right? So it's kind of funny how you categorize your success, right? Success is so different. The perception of success in your own mind about what you've achieved. I haven't been successful yet, But in comparison to, or when I tell the stories and when people ask me questions, they're like, you kidding me? You've had a life like nobody, and so it's one of those things where I look back and I always think to myself, the beauty in all of this is the things I've gained from the things I've tried.
Yeah. Sure.
I mean, from the music business, I can't stand here and tell you I had, #1 selling record. I charted at number 53, with one song. And, that to many people that's That's big success. That's pretty good success. When you go to Nashville and you sign a publishing deal to begin with and write songs, that's success.
Yeah.
But not according to this guy. So that's not what I was looking for when I started this. That's not where I was thinking this was going. But, you know, I also met the love of my life that I've been with for 27 years. We've had a brilliant, brilliant life. You know, we have had some of the greatest, everything I've ever experienced that's great has been with her. And so I can't take any of those experiences away without looking at what I've tried to do and the things that God has given me as a result. I'm proud of that.
Absolutely.
It's hard to be proud of that sometimes because you really and truly define success in so many different ways. But, you know, not for this guy. I mean, I've had a lot of great things come out of the stuff that I've attempted to try that maybe didn't work. But, and there's always a silver lining in something. You know, you can always find something positive in all the things that you do. And I feel like that's why we're here and that's why we do what we do. And sometimes we get so focused on the wrong aspect of whatever it is we're trying to achieve. We got our mind wrapped around the wrong place. And you don't look around and see what I'm so worried about this business. You know, I've made in this town probably 200 friends, close friends from this business that I could call on. I literally feel like that I could call on as true friends to help me in any capacity, anything I wanted to do. And that's again, not drawing on, we just turned a profit last month. We just turned the corner last month and turned a profit.
2.5 years. That's good.
So and I'm looking at it like, that's not enough. It's got to go. But at the same time, I could still pull out 20 or 30 things that have come from this that made it all worthwhile.
This is the kind of, you know, when we started this podcast, you know, there's so many business podcasts out there that give you 3 things and 10 things to be a millionaire and, you know, 5 ways to make you more effective.
Right.
But it's these kind of things that we think are far more valuable because we very in business spend so little time on the journey and the cost, personally and spiritually, mentally, that it takes to not just in business, but in life and where God brings us and how he breaks us constantly. I mean, there's not a person who's successful who hasn't been absolutely broken. You know what I mean? Every time, you know, we say the most common phrase entrepreneurs repeat is just one more week. You know, hey, I turned a profit, but it's going to be, give me one more week. I'm going to turn that around, or I'm going to turn, this isn't working. Just one more week. They don't give up ever until they don't have any other choice and they're dragged out. But we so often, you know, it's joy to see, but you feel after, you know, 27 years with your wife, you know, how it still brings that emotion to you, how that translates throughout everything that you do, and how God has brought you through so many different things to bring you to this one point. We're talking about one well life, but that's a very small part of your life so far. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? That's a blip on hopefully another 50 or so years, right?
We hope. Yeah.
And, you know, it's just amazing. It's these stories that I think speak more to people that God has called us all to something. There's a cost to it as well. It's not all rainbows and happiness. Right. He has called us to something. And if you have that purpose, that thing that you're passionate about, that God has given you to do, the pain's worth it. It's like in working out. It's like in using this, the pain's worth it. You know, I used to say, well, if it hurts when I work out, that's my body telling me stop. Right. But it's not. It's pushing past and pushing through that pain and embracing that pain to bring something in your life that makes you a new being, a new creature every single time.
I would agree.
That's what God does. And physically, mentally, and spiritually every single time, God's going to continue to break us over and over again. If you just came out of something and you feel like, I'm done. No, God's going to keep teaching you. The pain may be different. The situation may be different from time to time. But I love hearing somebody that's gone from so many disparate fields, and who that kind of makes you and what that kind of brings. I know obviously you're naturally a creative. You can't be in those fields that you were in without being naturally creative. That brings an element to business because you got to be a little creative to be able to do that. That's why we're so excited to have Christian entrepreneurs engage the kingdom throughout the world, because you need that creativity to be able to engage people with not just changing them physically or changing their physical lives, but changing them spiritually for eternity and being able to reach them exactly where they are.
It's not always about the topic that you're discussing that you're really hitting. You know, it's you're in here talking. We're in here because of One Well Life, but there's so many more things that, you know, that spawn off
Absolutely.
of that. That I think another great thing that I've gotten really involved in lately. I don't say lately; it's been a while. I've been involved in it for a long time. But I've committed to mental health and suicide awareness. I'm actually, you asked me if I'm still playing music. I am. I'm playing at the end of this month, August 28th, a fundraiser to raise money for mental wellness. I'm sorry,
Mental health.
mental illness.
That's
Some of them are going
true.
through.
That's true.
Some
Yeah.
of them are going through that.
Wow.
But a suicide awareness, and that's also, this is also giving me a platform to do that. I'm able to, bring those folks in, show the platform that I'm on right now to kind of help lift.
Here's that show.
It will be at Hub Stacy's downtown.
I ate lunch there today.
Yeah, and a little restaurant bar.
I love Hub
and
Stacy's,
there'll probably be way too many people for the small size that it is, but that's what we want. And we're just it's all in good cause. Red Flamingo is the name of the nonprofit, and we're just trying to raise money for awareness to get. There's a lot of people that are touched by suicide.
Oh, yeah.
And that's been of late my real, that's my battle cries. That's what I'm working on. That's what I'm spending a lot of time doing right now, is because I feel like that we're in a place right now, a really weird place in this world, in this country. And so many people are finding that to be the remedy. And it's baffling to me.
Yeah.
We'll never get to ask that question before, because they're gone by the time it gets around. But I don't understand, but I just feel like that it's my calling at the moment.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm.
I think we're at a point in our country. We're starting to see, just read an article where more young men are turning to Christianity than in any other point in the last 50 years.
Really?
And I don't think it has much to do with the political climate. I think it's also an indicator. I think God's doing something in our country. We've had some rough times over the last 20 years, not just in politics and economical things and things like that. I think spiritually, we've seen so many. We talk about all the time how many anxiety and depression. Now everybody has it.
Yeah.
And I think some of it is a fitting in thing for some people, but I think it's a real epidemic. I think there's some real causes to it. I think there's some environmental causes, but I think there were spiritual causes.
Yeah.
I think the devil is hard at work, but I think the Holy Spirit has infiltrated our nation in a new way. I think we're on the precipice of seeing some sort of spiritual awakening in our country today. And I think it would be foolish for us to ignore that. Sometimes we use it in the context of politics all the time. That's fun, to get caught up into that kind of stuff, but there's a real cost in our country. And we see this a lot. Like you said, most everybody has been touched by suicide or people going through things that we have no idea. And we've probably been that person too, that we were going through things and we show that strong face and we don't want to show that weakness. And that is a moment too, not just that we can intervene and hopefully save a life, but that God can intervene as well. And he can use us as an instrument to speak to people, use those opportunities, those divine opportunities. And it's great to see people putting feet to those kind of things and having an impact in our community, whether it's even through church or just doing it, being the church. There's a difference sometimes, and seeing that and doing that. But I can tell you, I've absolutely loved this and enjoyed every part of your story. So encouraging to see how God uses people in different ways, and where you started out at the beginning of your adult life, see where God's brought you.
Right.
And if you went back to that 18-year-old going into college ball, say, hey, one day you're gonna run a health and wellness, right?
Yeah, that whole experience in and of itself, that was the one thing I think sports, I held on to very tightly, because it was the one thing that gave structure, and you had to be accountable, and I enjoyed playing it, and that really kept me focused and in line, because had I not had that, there was just plenty of opportunity to go the wrong direction.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your
Thanks
story
for
with us
having
today.
me.
Tell us, how can people find out more about One Well Life?
OneWellLife.com is our website. www.onewelllife.com. You can also find us on Instagram. We do lots of videos on Instagram. We've probably got more content on there than we know what to do with. I have donned myself and, affectionately as Uncle B. The Uncle B goes on and does, there's a lot of stuff there. But yeah, and then Facebook, same, just your normal avenues. We're all over. We're on 3101 East Cervantes, right catty corner from Running Wild. And we're in the same little area right there on that little strip center right next door to Domino's Pizza. So come by and see us. We'll do some one-time for free things to get you guys going. So,
nice.
Yeah.
We need to go down there and do a video.
Check it out for sure.
Yeah,
Thanks for
that'd be
having me
awesome.
very much.
Thank you so much
We
for being
appreciate you
here.
guys having me.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. We'll hear you. Well, you'll hear us next week right here on the, what is it?
Entrepreneur.
ARK Entrepreneur podcast. Hopefully we can edit that out. No, we won't. But thank you for joining us for the ARK podcast. We'll hear you. See you next week. Bye.
You'll get it next week.
Bye, everybody.
Hear ya.